Tonight on Mid-Maryland Votes, we're joined by Washington County Sheriff candidate Chuckie Johnson. As Annapolis continues pushing controversial policies on crime, immigration, and gun rights, many Marylanders are asking whether state government is making it harder for law enforcement to keep communities safe. From juvenile crime and criminal justice reform to ICE cooperation and gun restrictions, we're diving into the issues that are shaping the future of public safety in Maryland. Now let's get into it. Welcome to Mid-Maryland Votes. I'm your host, Mark Flynn. With me is my distinguished guest, Chuckie Johnson, who is running for sheriff of Washington County, Maryland. Chuckie, welcome to the program again.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on again.
We had a great time the last time we talked about a variety of topics, but how's the campaign going? We're at the final stretch, right?
We're on the home run here. I think things are going well. Momentum's building. We got the final push out for advertisement and so on. So things are looking good. Hopefully that momentum carries and we have people show up to the polls.
When can the voters vote for you? When is the earliest time they can do that?
Early voting starts this coming Thursday.
Okay.
And,
so this kind of Thursday, people should get out and see what they can do.
You got it. Yeah, that's early voting. And of course, election day, primary day is on June 23rd. So that's the do or die day.
Right. And then, so because you're running against another Republican, the primary, is there any Democrats going to run against you guys in the general?
There is a Democrat on the ballot right now. Yes.
Who is that? Do you happen to know?
Junior McLeod.
What's his name? I'm sorry.
Junior McLeod.
Junior McLeod. Does he have any police experience?
As far as I know, what I can remember about him from the last time was he did some bail bondsman stuff and maybe parole and probation. So
he's parole, probation, and a bail bonds, and he's running for sheriff of Washington County, Maryland, as a Democrat.
Yes. The Democrats were just happy that they had a name for every position, they said. I guess.
So just for our viewers, Washington County is a primarily conservative county where Democrats outside of Hagerstown City don't do very well. Whoever wins this Republican primary will probably win the general election. Isn't it? Would you say that's accurate?
Yes, sir. I
wanted to talk to you about a couple of very interesting things that happened recently, Chuck, and your position on them as a possibly elected sheriff. Governor Moore has passed a juvenile crime initiative, which he signed into legislation. And this critics say, and Gina Cerencioni was in here a few days ago, who's the state's attorney, says it's going to make it much, much harder to charge juveniles with violent crime. What's your take on that?
That's correct. Back a few months ago, I made a video talking about juvenile crime and the earlier reform that they put through in 2023, I believe it was, which really kind of took some tools out of our toolbox. So it made things a little harder. This time, they went even further. And it used to be we could charge over the age of 16 as an adult if they had possession of a firearm. Now, no longer can do that. That is under the juvenile court system now.
So you're saying that a juvenile, no matter how violent, no matter how many guns they have on them, that they cannot be charged as an adult and have to go through the juvenile justice system?
That's correct.
With gun violence?
With gun violence. So if it is first-degree assault, possession of firearms, or anything lesser, it falls under the juvenile court system.
And let's be real. Most juveniles are not charged with murder. They're usually charged with some lesser crime associated with the violence.
Yes. We have coddled the children long enough that you wonder why we have repeat offenders, why we have such young people in the age 18 and on reoffending is because nobody has taught them right from wrong. Even when it gets to the court system, they're still not being taught right from wrong.
There's no consequences. Why would you stop doing bad things if there's no consequences?
Absolutely.
If you're going to go in the juvenile justice system, get a slap on the wrist and get put back on the street, why in the world would you change doing what you're doing?
Yeah, we will lock up juveniles right now with some pretty serious offenses, repeated offenders. And, we call juvenile services like we're supposed to. We check our boxes. And juvenile services rarely holds them in juvenile confinement. They call the parents. Even when the parents they're at their wits' end as well. They are at a loss for help. And they have to come pick their child up from the police station because juvenile services will not hold these juveniles.
That's because Governor Moore is basically exiling these kids to the juvenile justice system, and it is already a dumpster fire, right?
Correct.
Providing no direct supervision, kids in these lockdown facilities. It's an insane system. So for Governor Moore to say you can't charge them as adults, but the system that I have set up in this is completely incompetent, that doesn't seem like a really good winning solution to me.
So when they passed the original juvenile reform package, they listed off a number of services they were going to provide to the parents and the community to try to help mitigate some of this juvenile crime, since we weren't charging these kids any longer. He appoints people to these positions who are not competent enough to fulfill those roles. And those services, while they're on paper, it's not reality. So they're just left to the street or left to their parents, who are, again, at their wits' end, left without resources to help them when their child has gone beyond, just general parental discipline.
So what you're saying is the services they list as alternates to sentencing either aren't funded or don't even exist yet.
They are rarely used.
Mm-hmm.
I put it that way.
Wow. That sounds like a recipe for disaster. Many people, especially a lot of sheriffs I've had several sheriffs on this show, and they feel Annapolis is increasingly dictating how local law enforcement operates. Where do you draw the line between state oversight and local control of policing?
So what I came up with is my Washington County First Plan, and it involves things like parental accountability. And we have to take control of our county. There's things that we can do at a local level through county ordinances and county policies that we can hold parents accountable for their child's actions. The legal framework is already laid by the state of Maryland. They tried to pass a similar bill back in 2025 and laid the legal framework for this. It just never came to fruition in the state, because we have to face it as Republicans. We have little to no control in Annapolis. If we get something through, that's awesome. But we cannot go down there and expect a grand slam. So it's time that we take care of Washington County and the other counties step up and start taking care of themselves, because we cannot rely on the state of Maryland to help us.
So do you believe the state's current approach helps or hurts public safety?
Oh, it hurts public safety, for sure. So we continue to burden taxpayers by clogging up the court systems, because these people are still, some of them will still be charged, and they repeatedly show up because there's no consequences. When they tie up the court systems, they're tying up the state's attorneys, they're tying up the judges, they're tying up all the other court staff. On top of that, most of them are seeking the assistance of the public defender's office, which is funded by taxpayers. This is just a continuous course of conduct out of the state that they keep burying themselves, just continue to bury themselves. And then overall, you look at our schools. I talk to teachers on a regular basis. The teachers are scared to go to work. They're being assaulted, and the kid comes right back to school. Like, something needs to happen, something needs to change, and we can do that here locally.
We've done several shows on the progressive discipline they're using in these schools and how ineffective it really is. And as you said, I read a statistic that 2 in 10 teachers in Maryland have been assaulted by their own students.
Yep.
2 in 10.
Right.
That's a lot of teachers being assaulted.
That is a lot.
And at the same time that Governor Moore is pushing these kids into a juvenile justice system that really can't even take care of them, especially for gun violence, he's passing legislation, some of the most restrictive in the country, restricting a very common gun that people enjoy, which is a Glock. He's restricting that now. So most legal gun owners believe they're being targeted instead of the criminals.
I agree with him 100%.
So as sheriff of the county, where do you balance, enforcing state laws and allowing people to have their legal rights to weapons and being able to defend themselves?
I am 100% on board for every law-abiding citizen to have and carry a firearm under their constitutional rights. You get gun bans and rules like this. Truly, people can grandstand and say, "Hey, this is I'm going to do this or do that." A ban like this truly has no involvement from local law enforcement, because you can't sell or distribute a Glock now in Maryland. As a gun owner, we can own them. Nobody's coming to your door to take them. You just can no longer purchase one in the state of Maryland, and you can no longer sell one in the state of Maryland. It cannot be transferred to another Maryland resident.
And if I understand correctly, Chuckie, the legislation basically says that because the Glock, which is a perfectly legal weapon, right, and very popular across the state, but because you can take the Glock and use an illegal device, you can turn it into a machine gun that is also, by the way, illegal and banned by law already. So the device is banned by law already. The machine gun that it becomes is banned by law already. And anybody who owns or does this procedure is also a criminal and can be charged under laws that already exist.
That's correct.
Why do we need this law?
Because this is what happens when people who know nothing about firearms are creating rules for firearms. This is also what happens when we have no punishment for the gun laws that we have on the books. We charge people regularly with firearms violations. True criminals. I'm not talking we're catching, the average law-abiding citizen, with a gun. We're talking criminal elements with firearms, and they're not being held accountable. So this is where we need to have strict enforcement for the criminal element that's carrying and possessing firearms and using firearms to commission their crimes. We have a lack of prosecution locally and within the state of Maryland.
It is amazing to me that you see in the news all the time in Maryland, people being charged for the second, third, or fourth time with gun violence. I mean, how in the world are these people still out on the street?
I wish I could give you a good answer, because right now I find no rhyme or reason. Locally here, I can tell you our jail is not overpopulated, or at least our local jail is not overpopulated by any means at all. These people need to be arrested. They need to be held, and they need to be held accountable in the long run.
It just seems more and more that Maryland is targeting legal gun owners instead of actually doing their job, which is going after the criminals.
You got it. Yep.
It's just
crazy. They just make it harder. They can't take our firearms from us because they're never going to get the support, especially of any sitting local sheriff right now, and anybody that I know of who's running for sheriff. None of us would be involved in taking somebody's firearm. So they would never be able to come in and take it. They don't have the resources for that. So what they're trying to do is limit the firearms that we can purchase.
Yeah, and people will say, well, that's no big deal. Just buy another gun. But the point is that why are you targeting the legally owned weapons of legal, sane citizens of the country instead of going after the criminals with the laws you already have on the books?
Couldn't agree more, but the more you try to figure it out, the more confused you get, I swear.
There is nothing legal about taking a handgun, any handgun, and turning it into a machine gun. I mean, there's like 3 different laws being violated there, all of which can put you away for 20 years. Why continue to target and inconvenience legal gun owners?
So here's the best part. Glock, they sided with California, and they created a new Glock, Glock V, I believe it's called. It was supposed to be unmodifiable to make it a fully automatic weapon. So you went from the previous generation Glock, where that part cost somewhere around $25 and it's being manufactured out of some sort of aluminum, to 24 hours after the Glock V was released, $6 for a 3D printed device, and it made the brand new Glock fully automatic.
These legislators don't know anything about guns. They literally, Maryland has for a long time now passed legislation after legislation after legislation banning specific models of weapons, and that, the manufacturers, they're not stupid. They change one small thing, create a new number, they got a new, gun.
You know about the Maryland gun list.
Yeah, the gun.
So
list.
you want to purchase a new firearm that just came out and hit the street. Mm-hmm. Well, you have to go pay for it, apply to have that gun added to the list, even if it's just a different variation, say a 6-hour 365. They come out with a new model. Even though it's the exact same platform with very slight differences, still has to be reviewed and added to the list. So you go spend $700-800 on a gun, and you still have to wait another 30 days. And then once it's approved, you wait your 7-day cool down period.
Unbelievable. Chuckie, how many years in law enforcement do you have?
Just about 20 years.
So in 20 years of law enforcement, have you ever seen a criminal that obeyed the gun laws?
No.
Any one of them?
Nope.
I've been doing it for 42 years, Chuck, and I'm telling you, not one time did I ever arrest a violent felon who had a gun permit.
Probably 15 years ago, is you rarely saw a gun. We would get a gun off the street, once a month, every so often. It is a daily occurrence now that law enforcement in our area is pulling a illegal firearm or a firearm in the possession of somebody who is illegally owning it.
And not only that, Chucky, but for safety purposes, we're teaching our young police officers that they should expect the suspects to be armed.
Absolutely.
That every suspect in every vehicle has the possibility of having a weapon in it. Not like the old days where it was rare. Now it's much more common, and way more common with juveniles.
Very, very common with juvenile. And the criminal element knows, so they understand. They keep up with these laws just like we do. So if the 21-year-old person selling drugs and so on and so forth has a juvenile with them and the cops pull him over, well, if he gets caught with the gun, he's in trouble. If that juvenile gets caught with a gun, mom's going to come pick him up at the police station a couple hours later.
And that is one of the critics of this bill stated very, very eloquently, and you're doing it yourself right now. The criminals are going to start using juveniles more often if they can't be charged.
They already have.
That's what criminals do. They exploit children and women and the vulnerable in our communities. That's what they do. And if you make it easier for these children not to be charged, they're going to be used more and more in crimes.
You got it. Maryland, back again when they passed the original juvenile reform, they went way out there, just like other states like Colorado and Washington State, California. Those other states are looking to revert back. Washington, D.C. is another one. They have bills out where they're trying to repeal and change some of the juvenile laws that they become so relaxed on to, again, make them a little more strict because they've lost control of the juvenile population. Maryland just buries its head in the sand and goes even deeper.
Super blue to the point where we are making California look more conservative. The Massachusetts blue has infected this entire state like the Ebola virus. I mean, a super blue majority, and like you said, the majority of these people, I know they're good intention. They're not evil people per se. But the problem is they don't know what they're doing, and they're just throwing darts at the board, and it jeopardizes law-abiding citizens' safety and security.
I think the easiest way to put it is they're governing under feelings instead of facts.
I mean, that's a problem. Feeling.
Juvenile, they feel bad for the parents. They feel bad for this person. They make everything so easy for them.
Overly empathetic and compassion is what we're talking about, right? And without consequences, you see kids raised that way all the time. What happens to a kid who's raised overly compassionate, empathetic with no consequences? They're a brat. They're spoiled brats, every one of them. Anyway, so Chucky, they also have outlawed the local sheriffs being able to cooperate with ICE under the 287G program, which is in essence falling apart. Now, some of the sheriffs, I'm not sure if Sheriff Albert was one of them, but some of the sheriffs have gotten together and are suing the state of Maryland to allow them to continue 287G. What's your feelings on that?
I agree with them 100%. Sheriff Albert did sign on to that as well. So, I agree with them 100%. I will definitely carry that battle with them. I think Washington County is potentially in a very good setup to still have ways to cooperate with ICE. I have a couple ideas that, we're going to run up the flagpole as that time comes. Processing center that's going to be coming to Washington County. We are in a unique position where ICE agents will be very, very, very close to the detention center. And the detention center, from what I understand, there's part of the detention center is not being used right now. So there's room there if ICE would like to have an office at the sheriff's office. You can be here and you understand, you see what is happening. You have access to all this information as well. They will know then when these people are being released, and we will cooperate with them by providing them a place in our facility, and they can work their magic from there.
Wow.
There's still ways around. There's still ways to work with them. And at the end of the day, what happens when you cooperate with them and the state of Maryland says no? The threat is they'll withhold your funding. It'd be interesting to see if that happens, because they haven't withheld funding from any other entity that I can think of for violating any sort of rules.
So when you say that the state will withdraw funding or with limit funding, in what way? Because the sheriff's department of Washington County is obviously paid for by the taxpayers of Washington County, right?
They are, but the state provides a certain amount of funding to each law enforcement agency in the state of Maryland. There's a percentage based on your population and so on that the state will provide to each law enforcement agency.
Is it a significant amount?
It's a fair. I can't remember the percentage off the top of my head, but yeah, it would definitely have an impact on the budget.
Wow. So basically, they got you by the short and curlies. If you don't cooperate with them or you fight Annapolis, then they're going to try to cut your funding. Is that possible? And Governor Moore has proven himself not to be a big friend to law enforcement in our state.
100%. And if you look around, and every agency across the nation right now is touting reduced crime statistics. Well, there's been some changes in the past year that everybody is reporting under the same reporting system now. Mm-hmm. Like in the past few years, that wasn't the case. So this is the first time that everybody's reporting under the new reporting system through the FBI, and the numbers are down. There's also a couple other factors that go into that. Our border is closed. ICE agents have been locking up illegal aliens right and left in all of our communities across the nation, and crime is down. Is there a correlation there? I mean, I think one could easily draw that conclusion.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%. I think that, since President Trump, love him or hate him, since he's come into office, you have to give him a props. I mean, crime is down across. I mean, if any of our viewers have been down to Washington, D.C. lately, it's like a different town. It's clean. It's serviceable. The fountains are on. There's no criminals around. There's no homeless people around. It's like a different city.
It's the tourist spot you wanted it to be.
I'm telling you. I mean, I've always thought that Washington, D.C. was a beautiful city with so much to offer. But people stopped going down there because the homeless people and the criminals were everywhere. I mean, you couldn't carry a gun in there because it's outlawed. So, I mean, even if you have a concealed carry permit, you can't go down to D.C. with it, right? So you got to leave your weapons behind. You got to go down there and trust that public safety is doing their job. And under the last administration, that was not happening.
That was not happening. And of course, they have to offer you permits. So, but the problem with Washington D.C. is the last time I looked, it was $400 for your permit. Mm-hmm. So they priced themselves out of the average person who's going to visit once a year, twice a year, being willing to purchase that handgun permit and do the training that they require.
Sounds a lot like a poll tax back in the old days.
I said, but not surprising.
No, it doesn't surprise me at all. So you're running your election. You're coming down to the wire. We've had Sheriff Albert here. You speak well of Sheriff Albert. It's not like you guys have any kind of animosity for each other, right?
Different ideas and the direction we should be going.
So speak to that.
It go back to, we need local solutions for these problems, because we cannot rely on the state of Maryland. And again, go back to the parental accountability, where we have these repeat offender juveniles. There's a couple of things that can come out of this. Those resources that the state says they provide, we can hold their feet to the fire to make sure that we're giving those parents those resources that they need. And if the parents take those resources, and hopefully those resources work and get their kid back on track to, potentially grow up to be a productive member of society. But, in my experience, we have parents who they refuse any help, and they also refuse to parent their child. And a very last resort will be, we will find the parents for each time that we have to, essentially discipline their child. We come in contact with their child for criminal behavior. The parents will be issued a citation if they're refusing to use these resources that are available.
So parents, they would argue that, they can't control this kid. They can't discipline them, because if they put hands on them, they're going to go to jail. So they don't know what to do. And they throw their hands up in the air and leave these little darlings to victimize society. How you deal with those parents like that?
So get back to, this is where those parents need the help, and they want the help, and they're willing to accept it. Maryland has the Child in Need of Supervision program. And this is where we have to be able to hold the juvenile services and social services accountable to make sure that that child in need of supervision program is being used, is being funded, and is being staffed to be able to step up and do take the responsibilities that they're supposed to take.
That sounds like some good stuff there, Chuckie. So how can our viewers find out more information about you before the vote, or where they can vote and help you out?
I have a whole plan to hopefully improve the quality of life of Washington County. It's the Washington County First Plan. You can check out the plan, C Johnson, the number 4 sheriff.com, or you can check out my Facebook page. It's Chuckie Johnson for Sheriff of Washington County.
Awesome. Hey, Chuckie, thank you so much for being on the show. You're always a very interesting guest with some great opinions, because they're almost the exact same as mine. But anyway, thank you so much for being a guest on the program. We enjoyed having you.
Thank you for having me.
Good luck in the upcoming election, Chuckie.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Chuck. Take care of yourself. Thanks to Chuckie Johnson for joining us tonight and sharing his perspective on the challenges facing law enforcement and public safety in Maryland. We've covered juvenile crime, criminal justice reform, immigration enforcement, and the growing tension between local communities and Governor Moore and Annapolis. Thanks for watching Mid-Maryland Votes, where we still believe the best conversations happen face-to-face, not through social media sound bites. We'll see you next time on Mid-Maryland Votes.